I've never, Tuesday morning to feel so much love. I am overwhelmed. Thank you all so much for welcoming me here. First, I want to start by thanking Georgia and Matt and Zvirion for welcoming me today, that you are truly making a positive impact in the community that you serve, and it's just an honor to be a partner with you. I want to thank Lexington Chamber for the warm welcome today. I really feel so much love in this room, and it's truly an honor to speak in front of you all in a community that I love so much. I've had the pleasure of getting to work more and more in Lexington, and it's just such a joy, such a full community full of love, and I'm really pleased to be here. I also would love to take a moment to remember what today is, September 11th, to remember all those who lost their lives serving our country. And I want to take a moment to also send love to all the first responders who are providing support in preparation for Florence. So please join me in sending love their way. As I was preparing for the talk today, one of my favorite parts of the talk is getting to talk about my Greg. So I was looking for updated pictures, and before I show you mine, I was wondering if you could show by your hands who's lost someone that they love in the room. So you know what I mean when I say that a relationship with a loved one, it doesn't end in death. Oh, well, kind of anticlimactic. There we go. Whoop. There we go. A relationship with the ones we love doesn't end in death. It keeps going, it transforms. So when I was looking through pictures, I came across these pictures of Greg. So Greg, he was the light of my life. Loving him, it was that type of love that transforms you. Loving him made me a better person. So these pictures I love. He only had 6 months as a dad, but man, he shined so bright. He took some time off from work before having Sal for paternity leave. And first responders, they can't have beards because they need to be able to wear a mask. And so Greg did what was called the baby beard blog. And so every day for his paternity leave, he'd take a funny picture with Sal. So there was Bigfoot in the woods and all these sorts of funny ones up there. And it was just such a great thing to do, and it really warms my heart. These are the types of memories that really keep me going this time of year. I may just flag you now. So for those of you who may be new to my story, Greg was a police officer who served in Forest Acres. And on September 30th, 2015, he was providing backup to a suspicious person's call. It wasn't his call. The man fled. Greg chased. He was the first on scene. A struggle ensued. The man shot, and Greg was killed instantly. Now, when I think about losing Greg and I think about that day, I felt so many emotions losing my husband, and I'm thankful that among all those feelings, fear and hate and anger have been among the least prevalent. But I have to tell you, in those first few moments, I felt angry. Because if you think about it, it was 2015. It seemed like every day, I don't know about y'all, but as a police wife, when I would look on the news, it seemed that every day there was a new story, that the tensions between police and the communities they serve were mounting and rising. And every day I'd go on and I would see a different story, another heartbreaking story, either an officer involved shooting or an officer being shot. And with that would come a flurry of opinions on social media for one team versus another. And when that moment when Greg was killed, it made me wonder. I knew that Greg died doing what he believed in serving others, but I wondered if other people understood that. And it made me wonder if his service and sacrifice were valued. So within hours, I started speaking out. The first call came in from the state newspaper. I said, if you want to talk about Greg, I'll tell you about Greg. And I was sharing our story. He said as I spoke, he was surrounded by 12 reporters who were holding their breath because it's just uncommon for someone to speak out in response to tragedy as I had. Then the next came a call from Senator Tim Scott. He said, Kassy, if there's ever anything I can do for you, please let me know. And I said, you can speak on behalf of law enforcement. And he was on the Senate floor the next day talking about Greg and sharing our story and calling for support for police. And that's how it went. Anytime there was a chance to speak out, I did. I did it for Greg, to honor his memory. I did it for Sal. He turned 6 months old that day, and I didn't want him to look back in the news years from now and see hate. I wanted him to see about his father and see love. But more than anything, I think what I knew then is I did not want to fuel a divisive narrative. I didn't want to be part of the hate. I wanted to remind people that there was a man that day who was killed. He was a father, he was a son, he was a husband, he was a friend, and he was loved. Too often in these cases, and not even just about police, about anybody, we forget that there are people involved in these news stories, and we immediately rush to judgment for one team versus another. And I didn't want that to happen with Greg. And so with that response, it launched me into one of the most pressing issues of our time, the eye of the storm of police and community relationships. And I responded perhaps in a way that was a bit unique, but I really sincerely believe that within all of us, we're a whole lot stronger than we think that we are. We have a greater capacity for love than we'll ever know. So if you walk away from anything today, I want to tell you more about my story, more about what we stand for, more about how we're doing this work. But if you walk away with nothing else, I hope you walk away with this: that together we can change lives. During this time, there are so many divisive narratives that we see everywhere that jump from one team to another. But at the end of the day, we're all fighting for the same thing. We're all on the same team. And no one person, no one system, no one organization can do it alone. It takes all of us working together. Our fight is in bringing together police and the communities they serve, but there are so many other things that need our attention and call for us to come together. So if you walk away with nothing else, it is this. So to tell you more about what I stand for, I'm going to first tell you the why of my story, so why I'm here, a little bit more about how we got to this place with Serve and Connect, the what it is, and the how we do this important work. So the first part is the why. So, if you don't mind switching. So I shared a little bit about that initial response. One thing I didn't share is that at 3 in the morning after Greg died, I was so thankful. I was surrounded by friends. I would joke that it was like coming to have wine at the botanical gardens because people would bring me flowers and wine, and then there was an open revolving door. But I was so thankful. I was surrounded by some of my closest friends who flew in from all over, but I couldn't sleep. And so I shared a Facebook post asking for 2 things. I asked, one, that people shared stories about Greg so Sal could learn about the man his father was. And secondly, I said that Greg was a hero and many other cops are too. And I proposed using the hashtag Heroes in Blue as a way to raise awareness of the good things that happen every day and so often go unnoticed. Greg shared a few months before he died, I was asking him about the divide between police and communities and what he thought about it. And he said, you know, Kassy, no one wants a bad cop brought to justice more than a good cop. But for every negative story you hear in the news, there are thousands of positive stories happening every day that go unnoticed. And so when he died, I wanted to raise awareness of those good things that happen every day, not to take away from the bad or the things that need to change, but to make the good a part of the conversation as well, and to help us lead our actions with love. So that, I've been on the forever track for my PhD. Anyone who's been in graduate school may understand. So I was working on my doctorate at the time. I loved the work I was doing. I loved my little life. I remember driving home from a work trip just a few weeks before Greg died, and I just started to cry because I was so happy. My life, though not fancy, was everything that I ever wanted. And so Heroes in Blue, an organization, this wasn't something that was pre-planned, that I already had in mind. It was really a reaction. So it went from that hashtag, and I kept feeling called to do something more. And Heroes in Blue started to evolve and grow. We started a Facebook page, which now has 68,000 followers worldwide. And then I heard word that December 14th was going to be named Officer Greg Alia Day. It was in honor of our wedding anniversary. And I wanted to do something that would show support to law enforcement. So we had this idea. What if people could go to a restaurant, donate $1, $2, whatever, and then at the end of the campaign, we'd see how much money we raised and bring lunches to show support to police in memory of Greg Alia Day. Our goal was to raise enough money just to bring lunches to the city of Forest Acres, which is a pretty small department, about 25 officers. We were so successful that first year that we raised enough money for lunches for 210 officers and delivered over $3,500 in gift cards. And the next year we more than doubled that, and this past year I'm proud that we brought lunches to 569 officers, delivered close to 11,000 in gift cards, and it was across 40 restaurants. We had 40 plus volunteers. It was like every meal, I say, is like a hug. So I'm really proud of what we've been able to do. The next big thing that happened is we're like, okay, this is growing, it's turning into something, I guess it should be a nonprofit. So I was sitting in the Secretary of State's office, waiting for our certification as a nonprofit, when I heard word. An officer had been shot and killed in the line of duty in the upstate, leaving behind a pregnant wife and 2 little boys. Our team rallied, and within hours, we started a GoFundMe campaign that raised over $193,000 for the family of Officer Alia. And again, for me, it's just every dollar, every share is just a reminder that their service and sacrifice are valued. So these things mattered, but I knew early on that if we really wanted to combat the divisiveness between police and community, if we wanted to bring people together and address that pain that hurt me so deeply that day, that we needed to do more than share good stories, and we needed to do more than just show support to police. That's an important part of the puzzle when we're looking at the big picture, but it's not the whole. And we needed to think about what we could really do to bring people together. But I wasn't sure. Spent a lot of time listening to people, talking to people, going outside my comfort zone, talking to people that you may think that I'd be least likely to listen to. Alongside this journey was my own process with the trial and the case involving my husband's death. Now, losing my husband was the absolute worst thing that I could ever imagine to happen. But being asked what you would want for someone else's life, for the life of someone who took everything from you, is a pretty close second. It seemed that every time that I would have to meet with the solicitor's office to discuss the case, it was like I was dragged into like this pit of darkness. This hate that I was so desperately trying to fight, it would just suck me in. Are you all familiar with Harry Potter? Show of hands, people who know? So the man who killed my husband was like Lord Voldemort, like he who must not be named. I couldn't think about him, I couldn't let him enter my mind without my heart just being filled with so much hate and anger. And there was one particularly painful day where I was just a wreck. I left the solicitor's office, I just couldn't think straight, felt completely broken. And I thought to myself, how am I going to face this man in court? How am I going to see the source of my greatest hate and pain and go home and love my son? How am I going to be the mother that he deserves? How am I going to teach him about empathy and forgiveness and compassion when I can't even find it in my own heart? I thought about so many things that I could tell him. I thought about, although I had done so much research on what justice means, I talked to so many people, I thought about all these rational explanations of what I could teach my son, and I'll probably still use a good bit of them, but none of them brought my heart peace. It wasn't until I pictured how I'd feel if I were his mother, the mother of the man who killed my husband. And immediately, I pictured him as my own little boy, so filled with hope and possibilities. And I realized he wasn't born a killer, and that she and I, his mother and I, what we have in common is we just want our little boys to thrive. None of us wanted to be in this situation, and I wondered, what if we could have found him before that tragic day? Would we have found a man in need, and what if we could have helped him? Would any of us be here today? And it was then that I saw an opportunity for police and community to come together. During this time, we've been presented with a narrative that shows cops versus community, that we are on opposing teams, and sometimes it seems that we're at war with each other. But what I've come to see is that we're all, at the end of the day, really fighting for the same thing: to protect those that we love, to build a safer community for all, for the people we love to thrive. And I saw that we just, I think in some cases, forgotten to speak the same language. And so that's what drove us to change from Heroes in Blue to Serve and Connect, is this recognition that there are those who are called to serve and we want to help them connect, that we can bring people together towards a common goal, and that it takes all of us working together, that police alone can't build safer communities, and neither can those who live in it. It takes all of us jointly working together towards that common aim. And so on March 19th, we rebranded to Serve and Connect, and our mission is to promote community resilience and well-being through transformative police and community partnerships. So what does that mean? What do we do? We are really that proactive support. We are the bridge, the glue. What we seek to promote is a collaborative policing approach where police are working in collaboration and in coordination with the communities they serve, that they are a partner, they are a conduit, they are a voice. They can't be everything to everyone, but they can be an important link between the community organizations and resources that make a difference and those who are in need of services. And that in partnership with the members of the communities that they serve, that they can really work together to bolster and build stronger communities. And we try to be that glue, that support system to bring people together. We are grounded in values of trust. Trust is everything. When we look at what's caused some of the divide between police and community, at the heart of it is trust on both sides, a lack of trust. And so we are very much founded on seeking to rebuild that trust that has been lost. Grounded in empathy, so a deep understanding of the experiences of others and bringing those diverse perspectives into designing all that we do. And also a deep appreciation for our shared humanity, that if there's anything that I've learned, it's at the end of the day, we are so much more similar than we are different, and that drives us in all the work that we do. So the how. How the heck do we do all this? There was a beautiful animation to help us walk through this, but it's okay. So in the first step, what we look to do is really to unlock the potential for collaboration. What this means is looking at police and community members, and particularly communities that are experiencing the greatest distrust in law enforcement, are coming to the table with their own histories, their own experiences, and their own readiness to be able to make change happen. What we seek to do is look at how ready they are, where they stand for this change, and really seek to build them up before we engage in these relationships. We then also seek to create opportunities for new ways of being that restructure the dynamics and the relationships between police and community. We do this through providing police with resources that can help people in need, things like our Greg's Groceries program, which I'll share a little bit more about. We do this through creating really dynamic events, and these events are magical. I'm going to give some examples, but it really is about bringing police and community organizations together over shared goals and planning. We're planning a really neat one here in Lexington called Bountiful Harvest. I'm actually having a meeting this afternoon, which I'm really excited about, so stay tuned for that. But they all create a different opportunity and a way for police and community to interact with each other. And then finally, we provide that really structured support to police and community members and community organizations, that coaching, that training, that assessment to see how that collaboration is working, and it'll help them, support them in using a collaborative policing model. This is all done in a context. So in order to maximize our impact, to be able to have the greatest impact possible, we try to target our change efforts in areas and communities and among populations that are likely to have the greatest distrust in police and be most impacted by a collaborative policing approach. These tend to be lower income areas or other marginalized communities. So one of the groups I'm really proud of we've started working with is ABLE, South Carolina. So better partnering with the disability community to make sure that police are serving those in the disability community most effectively. So some examples of our story. So Greg's Groceries I touched on. It is our partnership with Harvest Hope Food Bank, and it provides police with boxes of non-perishable food so that when they come across someone who's experiencing hunger, that they can provide that immediate support. In each box is enough food to feed a family of 4 for a week. And I love this story. So the boxes can be delivered if an officer is responding to a call, if they get a referral, or at some of our events. And in this one story, there was a police officer. She had known a woman, an elderly woman in the community, had checked on her a lot, but with Greg's Groceries, just started paying a little bit more attention to what her needs were and seeking how she could provide that assistance. And she said she learned this woman, she was on a very fixed income. At the end of the month, she was left with just $30 for food. And she spent a good bit of that on her cat. Because for elderly people who are left alone, those companions can really mean a lot. And so the officer was able to get a box of Greg's Groceries to provide her with that assistance to get her through that week. This next slide is kind of a dual story one. So the quote is from actually Deputy Chris Mastriani. We did an initiative this past winter called Warm the Winter, which provides police with hat, gloves, and scarves to be able to give to people who are experiencing homelessness during the cold winter months. And what he said is that it helped to open the door for a positive interaction. You know, hats, gloves, scarves are not going to end homelessness, but what they can do is open a gateway to better understand where the needs are and to seek to build that relationship, to restructure into something different and powerful and positive. The picture, though, is another really powerful story. So this was a Columbia Police Department officer again. He called me and told me the story. It was so powerful. He'd received a call that there was two women and a child begging outside of a Walmart, asking for money. And he said his heart sunk. He's like, what am I going to be able to do? I have to ask them to leave. But then he remembered that they had Greg's Groceries boxes. He called down to the department and said, hey, can you bring me one of these boxes? He went up to the woman and let him open the door for a conversation. He learned that the woman who was pregnant had lost her job. Her elderly mother had a health condition, so she couldn't work. And they had a little toddler there, and she was pregnant with another one along the way. They were able to provide a box of Greg's Groceries and also contacted Harvest Hope Food Bank, got diapers, formula, other supplies. It's not just about the box, it's about the relationship, it's about the follow-through, it's what happens after that, and it's about consistency. I shared that we also help to host different events, and so I was really excited. Who's familiar with the Midlands Fatherhood Coalition here in the room? That helps to support dads reconnect with their families. So dads, for example, who may have problems paying their child support, they help them get jobs, help them with job training, help them reconnect with their families. Huge, very important work. I was talking with the chief of police in Springdale, Kevin Cornett. He's a wonderful man. And he has his own powerful story, a story of he grew up in a broken home, was abused at an early age, didn't have his father, and now he's a father of 4 boys. So he's very passionate about helping support dads. And he said, you know, Kassy, I really want to do this event that celebrates the important role of fathers and also raises money for the Midlands Fatherhood Coalition. But our department is small, they only have 8 officers, and he said, we have no money to do this, and I don't know the Fatherhood Coalition. I said, I can help you with both. We helped to coordinate the run. I'm actually going to be delivering the check later this week. The final number, it was over $11,000, but I'll have to calculate, which is pretty exciting for a first-time run. And what was really magical about it was that we had over 100 people there, all different walks of life, people who wouldn't be together normally in other settings, all coming together over camaraderie, fun, hope. It was really an outstanding occasion. We also hosted on July 8th our Farm Day Fun Day. This was, so we had the boxes of Greg's Groceries, and we wanted to use them to help provide a space. So in the summer months, it can be really difficult for families sometimes. Sometimes children during the school year go home on Friday and don't eat again until Monday. And so we wanted to provide a bridge during the summer months when people are really hurting to be kind of a source of light and to give more food to provide that support. But we wanted to do it in the Serve and Connect way. So we brought together about 6 different partners and the Columbia Police Department, and we all worked together to plan this outstanding event, which had gardening demonstrations, cooking demonstrations, music, musical chairs. We had Chief Holbrook and Mayor Benjamin duking it out on the musical chairs. We had Sarah Simmons there doing the cooking. We had kids making their own little farmer's market. It was about hope and the future and looking ahead and coming together and neighbors helping neighbors. And through this, we were able to deliver over 3 tons of food, which equated to over 5,000 meals to a food insecure area. I could keep going, but just to give you some insight into the impact that we've been able to make, this is just over the last 2 or 3 months. You can see that we've delivered over 750 boxes of Greg's Groceries. We've touched over 40 zip codes, spanning 6 counties, reached an estimated 3,000 people, around 900 families, and keep in mind that each box is enough to feed a family of 4 for a week. So these are just some of the numbers that we've created, and we're gearing up for even more for that follow-through. So I mentioned the Daddy and Me 5K. What we're going to be working on with the Midlands Fatherhood Coalition is doing an assessment to better understand, do police know about the Fatherhood Coalition? How does the Fatherhood Coalition feel about working with the police? And how can we involve those dads in designing our efforts to bring policing as a resource and as a referral source to really end cycles of incarceration in those families? So it's about really understanding how do we make that long-term change. We're getting into the real heart of the matter. So again, I hope that, I know I get so passionate, I could go on and on and on and share so many outstanding stories of healing, of love, of collaboration. But I hope that you walk away with this feeling that together that we can change lives. And as I shared, this work, our work, is focused on bringing together police and community, but the message, I think, is something that can resonate with everyone. And I call it a courage for collaboration, because during these divisive times, we can sometimes, when we feel attacked, when we feel threatened, when we feel angry, we can cling to what we know, to protect those that we love. But in fact, if we want to have these walls come down, we have to do the exact opposite. We have to find the courage to come together for solutions, to reach out to people who may be most different from ourselves, to share our stories, to receive them, to seek deep understanding, and to have a very real commitment to finding effective solutions. So we are all about sharing the light, illuminating the bright spots, showing everyone what's possible, and on September 28th, I'm so excited, it'll be our 3rd annual Night of Honor Gala, and it's a super awesome event. I mean, down to like, you're gonna have straw on the floor, so you really feel like you're in a Renaissance village. But why I bring it up here today is because we will be acknowledging and celebrating the way that both police and community work together to make a difference to build stronger communities. We'll be celebrating a police and community partnership and also knighting 6 officers statewide who have been recognized for excellence in community service. We're trying to show what is possible when we take a different path forward. So thank you all so much. It's an honor to be here. If you have any questions, I am an open book. All I care about is doing the best that I can. I say, you know, I'll keep doing this as long as it's doing something good, and when it stops, I'll stop. So if there's some way that I can do it better, or you have a different way of looking at it, I am just one person, but this work is about the voices of all of us and a commitment to come together to do something different. And I'm just honored to do everything that I can to do that. So thank you for the time, and I hope that you have a wonderful Tuesday.
So excited about what they're doing in our community and what they're doing for them. We wanted to make a donation to them, and part of that is we sponsored their chamber membership, so excited to have them as members of the Lexington Chamber.